Okay, I think we're ready to start. So we are doing chapter 145, which is familiar to everybody. It is, we like to call it Ashrei, even though it doesn't really start in the Tehillim with the words Ashrei. So this is part of our davening, a lot of it, as we'll speak a little bit more. But in our davening, we add two lines from different chapters of Tehillim: Asher Yoshev Eisecha, Eid Yahalelucha Selah, and Asher Ha'am Shekachalei, Asher Ha'am Hashem Elokav. Are two lines from chapters 84 and chapter 144, and they are just used as an introduction to this capital Tehillim, which we'll understand a little bit better once we understand what this chapter is about. So we say this chapter every day, and until like when I was deciding which chapter I wanted to learn today, so I said, yeah, what's about Ashrei? Because I was actually looking towards the end of the Tehillim. We always do from the beginning of the Tehillim, and I decided we've got to do some from the end. And I thought, okay, let's do Ashrei. I've never prepared it before as a shir, but it's so simple because we say it all the time. We know it by heart, and then it's unbelievable to see the depth of a capital of Tehillim, which you think you know. So even today, we'll just scratch the surface of it, but at least get a feeling, a real feeling for it. So you know that. You know that this chapter Ashrei goes with the alphabet, the Hebrew Aleph Beis Gimel, and what is that called? An acrostic, I think it's called, and it's missing one letter. It's missing the Nun, which we want to know about that also. So the Talmud in Brachas, Masechta Brachas says that a person who says Ashrei 3 times a day, that's twice in Shachris davening and once in Mincha, is called, they assured that they are a Ben Olam Haba. In other words, they have a straight ticket into Olam Haba. They know that that's where they'll go. And that's in fact what the reasons that's brought why we add the pasuk Ashrei Yoshev Eisecha, because we're saying fortunate are those who come into your house, into Hashem's house, at daven, because then they land up saying Ashrei the 3 times a day, and then they land up being a Ben Olam Haba, being someone who deserves to go straight to Olam Haba. And the commentaries ask why. Why do you get rewarded for saying Ashrei 3 times a day? And most of them come to the conclusion that it's not just the saying of Ashrei, but that if you repeat something over and over and over again, it has to affect you. And then we start taking on some of the behaviors and some of the hashkafa, some of the feelings that we're supposed to have, in like that Ashrei tells us, and that is actually what causes us to become a Ben Olam Haba, to be someone who deserves to go to Olam Haba. It's interesting that this capital of Tehillim has 150 words, if you want to sit and count them, and that is corresponds to the 150 chapters of Tehillim, which the commentaries tell us that this capital of Tehillim, if it's said properly with the right intentions, with the right kavanas, that it is keneged. It's as though that you've said the whole of Sefer Tehillim. In other words, it contains in it everything that is contained in all of the rest of Tehillim, if you are able to access that. It's also interesting that this capital of Tehillim begins with the words Tehillah LeDavid, a Tehillah of David. So David was the author of it, as he is of many other kapitlach of Tehillim. But this one, instead of calling it a mizmor or a shir or or not calling it anything, it's called a Tehillah. And this is the only capital in the whole of Tehillim, and actually the only place in the whole Torah where it has these two words that come together, Tehillah LeDavid, that this chapter is called a Tehillah. Um, so, and just out of like just a little bit of information, you probably realize that when you say Tehillim, that the next five prakim till the end of the book of Tehillim are all about praises of Hashem. So let's see what is so great about this chapter of Tehillim and what is it actually telling us. So it begins with the words. So it starts off by its introduction to Hillel David, and then it begins Aleph Arei Mimcha Elokai Hamelech Va'avarcha Shimcha La'elam Vayed. I will exalt you, Hashem, the King, and I will bless your name forever onwards. So this idea of Arei Mimcha, I will exalt you, I will raise you high, I will make you great, is us saying to Hashem, I know that you are always great. So this is the together with the words "Va'avarcha Shimcha La'olam Va'ed," forever and ever. La'olam Va'ed. La'olam means forever. Okay, that's the simple way that we translate it. But it's got so much more in it because the word La'olam contains in it olam, which is world, and also contains ne'elam, which means hidden. And so, what are we actually saying to Hashem when we say, I will exalt you, la'olam va'ed, forever and ever? So, in this world, in Olam, in this world, when I see you do nice things, I will exalt you, I will think you great, I will say you great. With all the physical things, I will praise you, I will, whatever it is, la'olam, in this world. But ne'elam, even Hashem, when you are hidden, when I don't see you clearly in this world, still Arei Mimcha, I will still acknowledge that you are great. I will still acknowledge that you are all the things and praise you for all the things that you do, even la'alam va'ed, even when you are hidden and I can't see you. And the commentaries say that a person who gets used to praising Hashem la'olam in this world will also praise Hashem la'olam va'ed in the world to come. And why is this? So firstly, says David HaMelech, B'chol yom avarechecha, all days I will bless you, and I will praise your name, again, these words, la'olam va'ed, forever. So Rambam says we actually have a mitzvah to praise Hashem, to bless Hashem every single day. We can fulfill that either by davening, by making a bracha over something we eat, or even simply by saying something great about Hashem to someone. Then we have fulfilled the mitzvah of blessing Hashem every day. Obviously, the more we bless Hashem, the more the greater. But that's at the simple level. Continues and explains, Gadol Hashem Mahul al Ma'od. Hashem is great and he is very praiseworthy. And to his greatness, there's no end. There's no we can never find out everything. And this is ein cheker. There's no end. The Chazal tell us the more we learn about Hashem, the less we know about him. And so the more and more we learn about Hashem, the more we realize how great Hashem is, Ligdulasai, his greatness. And we also realize that we can spend all our life learning about Hashem, and we'll have just touched like a tiny, tiny little bit. As David HaMelech says, Ein cheker. There's no end to studying and to finding out and to seeing and to realizing the greatness of Hashem. Dor ledor shabach ma'asecha. From one generation to another generation, we praise your deeds. Ugvurasecha yagidu, and we tell about the great things you've done. And Radak tells us that we actually have an obligation to pass on the miracles that Hashem does from one generation to another generation. That speaking about Hashem's greatness just in our time is nothing. well, I shouldn't say nothing, it's little. But when we add all the greatnesses of Hashem from generation to generation to generation, that's how we are able a little bit to come to some level of appreciation for Hashem's greatness. And this is why we always like to say, Yiddishkeit is not a religion of history. We have to take practical lessons from our history. Yes, that too. And so have a look at the holiday of Pesach, for example. We don't only keep Pesach because Hashem took the Jews out of Egypt. We keep Pesach because there's lots of very practical lessons that we need to know and do and keep and learn from. But a big part of Pesach is to remember the miracles that Hashem did for our ancestors. And so, with every single miracle that we retell, we have to see it in both ways. We have to see it as something that happened, a big miracle that was in the past, and we also have to see it as something that we have to apply to our lives now. We also told that one of the ways that Hashem, like one of the orders that Hashem put into the world, was that in every generation, a little bit more of godliness would be revealed. So we don't really think every day, wow, we have more godliness this generation than there was a generation ago. But it's true, we do. There is in every generation a little bit more revelation of Hashem than there was in the time before. And in fact, often when we ask about the different things, I think one of the most obvious ways that we can see the little bit extra or the lot extra of godly revelation is in the quest of people now to understand Kabbalah and the the whole world studying Kabbalah at whichever level they do, calling it Hasidus if they want. They are getting this extra glimpse of godliness, of revelation that generations before us never had, and possibly never needed in those generations. In our generation, because of where we are, we need extra godliness to push us up, to motivate us, to inspire us to a place where generations before they didn't need that. They were able just to follow Hashem and do what He wanted and do mitzvahs without these unbelievable revelations that we have today. Continues David HaMelech, and he explains to us, Hadar Kveid Heidecha, and I'm not going to translate the word Hadar yet, but Hadar is the glory, your glory, the honor of your glory, Hashem, the divrei nifla'osecha asicha, and the words of your wonders I will speak about. And Chazal tell us that the word Hadar, or the word Haid, actually, so simply it just means beautiful. But deeper than that, Haid is the power of Hashem over nature. So we don't always see the power of Hashem over nature. We actually take it for granted. And I think a lot of what this capital of Tehillim is going to tell us is using nature to see Hashem's greatness. So for the people in Cape Town, that's easy. You can see Hashem in creation, okay, just driving around you, if you choose to. And if we want here in Gauteng, anyone who lives through a storm there's no way you can deny that Hashem's gevura, His power, is there in nature. So we can see godliness again if we choose to. And this is what David HaMelech is telling us. He says, Hadar Kveid Heidecha. We choose if we want to see Hashem in nature and over nature. If we want to see Hashem's power over nature, that's our choice, and that's called Haid. And that's what David HaMelech is telling us over here, is one of the ways that we can continuously praise Hashem is through Haid, is through seeing Hashem and His power over nature, and continues in a similar idea for the next two psukim, ve'ezuzna esecha yomeru, and about your wonders or the strength of your wonders we'll speak. Ugdulascha saprena, and your greatness I will tell. It's using all different. Sorry, it's using all words of Hashem's greatness and speaking, telling it, yomeru, asaprena, we will tell it. But the big word over there that I want to stop on is the word asicha. I'll chat about it. And Asicha means ordinary chat, ordinary talking should be part of our ordinary talking. Should be speaking about the greatness of Hashem, and we do to a small extent. We've included it. We've started including it in our conversation, just by the fact that naturally, instinctively, we ask each other about the weather in another place. Why are we interested in the weather in another place? Why do we care if it's cold in New York or if it's windy in Cape Town? We're sitting here, and why are we telling people that it's hot in Johannesburg? Because we are straight away homing in on the fact that this is how Hashem made his world, and he has the power to make it cold in New York, windy in Cape Town, and boiling hot in Johannesburg all at the same time. And what we've done, which is great, according to David HaMelech over here, it says asicha. It becomes part of our everyday conversation. But we have to take it further than that. We actually have to consciously bring Hashem into our asicha, into our everyday conversation. Speak about his greatnesses. Speak about things that you think he did nicely. Even speak about things you don't like so much, but you recognize that Hashem is the one who does it. And we have tried to take on ourselves. We use expressions which we sometimes don't even realize the bigness of what we're saying. I was listening to the radio before in my car, and the person who was talking said some random comment and then finished off and saying, there is a creator who runs the world. And it had so little to do with what with what she was saying, but it's become part of our language. We're supposed to do that, says David HaMelech. Asicha, asapra. We have to tell. We have to talk about Hashem. When people ask us how we are, we have to say thank God. We have to bring Hashem into and what He does into our daily lives and what we're doing, what we're saying. We've got to think about, we've got to remember about the good things that Hashem does, and rejoice in His righteousness. Chanan v'rachum Hashem. Hashem is merciful, erech hapayim. He's long, patient, ugdal chesed, and he's great with his kindnesses. So the commentaries tell us that one of the ways that we get Hashem's mercy when we want it is by saying the 13 attributes of faith. So you know that on Yom Tov, it's one of the big parts of our davenings, and we have a universal tune for it, and everybody gets moved when the Aron Kodesh is opened, and we all say with Kavana, Hashem, Hashem, Kel Rachum, B'chan, right? We are calling on Hashem's mercy to be nice to us, give us a good year. And if, God forbid, ever there's reason that we need to call on Hashem's mercy, those are the words we use, the 13 principles of faith. And this was a trick that Hashem told Moshe, you want my mercy, this is what you need to say in order to call on it. But truth is, we're not allowed to do that all day. We want Hashem's mercy, we want Hashem's kindness, but it would be completely wrong, and would be something a little wrong with us if we went about our day and sat in our cars and stood in our kitchens and wherever we went and suddenly just started singing Hashem, Hashem, Kel Rachum V'chan, and what? Okay, this is for Yom Tov, right? It's not for our everyday, all moments thing. So comes along David HaMelech and he gives us these psukim over here. He says, Chanan v'rachum Hashem, erech hapayim ugdal chesed. Toiv Hashem lakol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav. And Chazal tell us that in these two psukim, it actually contains all 13 attributes of mercy. And when we say Ashrei and we say this pasuk, we are actually calling on the 13 attributes of mercy every single day in a way that is permitted, in a way that we are allowed to do. Take notice of the words Ugdal Chesed, which is suddenly changed into present tense, and his kindness is great in present tense. Say the commentaries that Hashem's kindness, his compassion to us, is in present tense. In other words, it's not something that was, and it's not something that will be, but it's something that's happening every single day, whether we realize it or we don't realize it. Hashem's kindness is continuous. Okay, and it says, and Tov Hashem Lakol, Hashem is good. Hashem is good to everyone. Rachamav al kol masav, and he has mercy on all his creatures. So we've got to understand that because Hashem is good, everything that is in his jurisdiction, in other words, everything, is good. But it's not always good that we like, and it's not always good that we understand. And so our prayer to Hashem is that the good that He grants us should be good that we like and good that we understand. I once heard Rabbi Kesselman explain it as good without mafarshim. Okay, so we don't want to have to explain Hashem's good. We don't have to give excuses for the good that Hashem does. We want to have good that we can look at, we can see, and we can say, yeah, that's good. Okay, and that's even David HaMelech in a different capital of Tehillim. He says, "Ach tov v'chesed yivdafuni." Only good and kindness should chase me. And for instance, like that's a little bit of double language. Ach tov, Hashem should only give me good. And the commentaries explain to us over there that we don't just want good; we actually want good that's kind, good that feels nice. Okay, good that we can appreciate as good. Lots of people use the expression "revealed good." Okay, it's good that we can see it here in this world. Over here also David HaMelech says that his kindness is al kol ma'asav, on all his things that he made. So Hashem is kind not just to us, he is kind not just to humans, but he is good to all creatures. Okay, and says, what is this? V'rachamav al kol ma'asav, and he has mercy on everyone. That when Hashem does things that are harsh, when he does things that are difficult for us, he does it with rahmanas. In other words, Hashem also feels sad when he does things that we can't appreciate as good. It's like if a parent punishes their child and says, "Okay, you're not going to have your cell phone now for the next week, 2 weeks, whatever it is," and then they take away the child's cell phone and they go dancing to the other room and saying, "Yay, I got a cell phone, I've got so much I can do this week," we would say there's something wrong with them, right? But a parent doesn't feel nice when they've made life difficult for their child. If a doctor would take a needle and stab you and say, "Whoa, I was waiting to do that to someone one of these days," we would also find another doctor, right? Someone who cares that, like, did that hurt? I'm sorry, right? Whatever. And this is what David HaMelech means when he says, "V'rachamav al kol ma'asav." When Hashem does things that hurt, he also hurts. He has rachmanas. Yeducha Hashem kol ma'asecha. Hashem, it's known all the things that you've done, Hashem. V'chasidecha yivarchucha, and your pious ones bless you. And the Gemara asks, who is a chassid? Okay, so that definitely doesn't mean a chassid of 2024, and doesn't mean like a chassid from a particular group of chassidim. It means chassid according to the way of the Gemara. A chassid is a person who is devout, a person who is pious. So the Gemara asks, so who is this chassid? Who can be this chassid, and answers a person who looks for ways to praise Hashem. That's the definition of a chassid. It's one of there's other places where it says other things, but this is one of the places. And the Gemara gives the examples and says there are those people who look out to make special brachas, and it gives the special brachas because those are praises of Hashem, and it gives the example of people who go out to make the bracha on the blossoms. So this is not a mitzvah that we have here in South Africa, because even though we have beautiful blossoms, the bracha for making over the blossoms is in Nisan, in the month of Nisan, and people actually have to go out, leave their houses, and go and say the bracha on the blossoms. And it's very beautiful in the northern hemisphere where people are having blossoms in Nisan. The schools take the children out in the streets, and if you live in a beautiful part of the world like Brooklyn, when somebody spots blossoms, they get very excited, right? It's like, look at that, there are blossoms in Brooklyn. And the word spreads, if you go to such and such a corner, the first tree has got blossoms on. And the schools come and they stand outside the people's fence of their house, and they make brachas on the blossoms. This, is the Gemara, is the definition of a chassid, someone who looks for different ways to praise and to bless Hashem. Here in South Africa, again, coming back to the storms, so you can know that we've had some mighty storms in the last short while. There are brachas that we make when it lightnings and when it thunders. And what happens is that we become very complacent. So in the first storm of the year, quickly we're reminding each other, what bracha do you make on the thunder? What bracha do you make on the lightning? And then we get bored of it. Second storm in one day. Am I going to make a bracha again on the thunder and the lightning? Do we? Don't we? Like, do we bother? Do we notice? And this is the definition of a chassid, someone who looks for a way to make another bracha for Hashem, another way to say a bracha to bless Hashem for his greatness, for his gevurah. And there are many such examples. The chapter continues, just looking at the time, and says, the glory of your kingdom we speak about, and your power. We also a different word for speaking about, and the commentaries tell us that this is referring both to natural things and to miracles. When it comes to miracles, we're much quicker to speak about it. Yedaberu. These are things that people tell. Do you know what happened? This, that, like this unbelievable miracle. But Yemeru, we are also supposed to speak about the ordinary, the natural things, and notice Hashem all the time. Whether it's in nature or it's in our lives, in something that happened in our life, or something we heard on the news, or something somebody else told us, we are obligated to talk about the greatness of the things that Hashem does. And it's one of the reasons that we have the halachas of making a bracha, again, this idea of blessing, of making a bracha, in a place where somebody had a miracle. So when I was growing up, I remember that we spoke with Rabbi Groner after my mother, Alei Shalom, was ill, and miraculously survived. And he told us that every time we go into the Brenthurst clinic, where she was all those years, we make a bracha. That, well, she, not us, she makes a bracha. This is the place that Hashem made me a miracle, and many such like occasions where we have to keep on reminding ourselves of the miracles that happened. I don't know if Esty Ash is on here today. Sometimes she's here, and I remember also when we were growing up that Uriel was hit by a car, and miraculously he survived. And I remember her discussing with me, telling me she thinks, I don't know what the end answer was, but that every time he walks on this street, on Bezeit Street, he must make the bracha of, this is the place that Hashem made me a miracle. Whether we actually make the bracha with Hashem's name or not, our obligation still is to speak about the miracles that Hashem made for us. Tell people about them. So then it continues, and says, and so then we Malchuscha Malchus, your melucha, your kingdom is greater than all worldly kingdoms because it carries on forever and ever. Now, all kingdoms are a little taste a little bit of a taste of what happens. It's a reflection of what happens above. So every kingdom that there is in this world is a small taste of the one above. But Hashem's one, Malchusacha Malchus Kailarimim, your kingdom, Hashem, is greater than all the little ones that reflect little bits of you in them. And here we come to the missing letter, the letter Nun, which is not here in this capital of Tehillim. The main reason that's given of why Nun is missing, it's because it says in Amos that maiden Israel will fall or may fall, and the word for fall is nafal, to fall, and we don't want to say here about Yidden falling at all, and so we skip it out. And traditionally, that's the reason that's given. A little bit deeper than that is the fact that we are now in a capital that is describing Hashem and His greatness, and we are speaking about how much we need to praise Hashem and speak about His wonders and speak about how great and everything He is. We must never think that we manage to praise Hashem completely. We need to know that it's impossible for me as a human being to praise Hashem completely. And therefore, one letter is missing. One letter is missing to remind us all the time, no matter how much we praise Hashem, we are human beings and we cannot complete our praising of Hashem. I want to do one more pasuk before I stop, and that's the next pasuk, which actually addresses the first issue. Now, we said that the letter Nun is left out because it's speaking about Yidden falling. The next pasuk, immediately after the missing letter, is Soimech Hashem l'chol hanoiflim. Hashem lifts, He supports anyone who falls, and He straightens out anyone who is bent over. So there are times in our lives, in our history, and probably in the future also, where we may be low, we may be fallen, we may not be nearly as great as we're supposed to be. But Seimeh Hashem l'chol hanoiflim. Hashem will straighten us, He will lift us, He will raise us, even from the lowest of levels. He will support us, and He will straighten us. And I think that's where we're going to go up to today, and we'll finish next week. Please God. So have a good day, a good week, and
thank you, Liz. Shabbos.
Thank you. Good Shabbos.
Thank you, Ricky. Good
Bye.
Shabbos,
Good Shabbos.
Ricky. Have a good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ricky, can you hear me?
Yes, now I can.
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Yeah.
Good
Have a
Shabbos.
good Shabbos and thank you for the share.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm trying.
You can get the phone to it.
I can't find where it says to stop the recording, so that's what's distracting me. Okay. Good Shabbos.
Mhm.